So, Alison, I want to talk a little bit about some student-related issues. I know, the last couple of years, probably the hot piece of legislation that was passed dealing with student-related discipline, in particular, Senate Bill 100.
Right.
So, Voices is come back to the Capitol looking to push things a little bit further with some things that obviously concern us when it comes to managing our buildings in an appropriate, safe, and secure way. And so could you just bring us up to speed on that and how that dialogue's going along?
Sure. So there's two bills. There's Senate Bill 704 and there's House Bill 1779, sponsored by Senator Lightford in the Senate and Representative Chris Welch in the House. So this language was really part of Senate Bill 3004 about 3 or 4 years ago or so. It was really a non-negotiable for us, I think, and as well as law enforcement, that would limit arrests on school grounds during school hours, in school vehicles, etc. So the very similar language has been proposed again. The only limitations would be if an offense arises to a felony level in the criminal code, if the offense deals with physical violence where there's serious bodily injury involved, and the removal of that student is necessary for everyone else's safety, if there's criminal sexual abuse, or if it's escaping me now. If the offense includes a firearm. So I think
just that.
Right. So I think clearly just by kind of looking at that list of exceptions, there's a lot of things missing. I mean, there's a lot of weapons that we're not even talking about. Firearms is certainly not the only thing that schools are concerned about. Things rising to the level of a felony, there are a lot of misdemeanors out there that are violent and nonviolent that I think a lot of schools and school administrators and parents and students, for that matter, I think would be very concerned about that we're not even addressing here. So, obviously there's issues with victims' rights and what happens if you're a victim of any of those things and you have no legal recourse to take action. If you wanted to press charges, you couldn't. But basically it says to the police, you cannot make an arrest if any of these things outside of these 4 are happening on school grounds. So, we are in discussions. We've had a meeting with the Senate sponsor. I'm not sure where this will go, but I think at this point, it's really, really difficult for us to be anywhere but in opposition to this kind of language. Again, we'll kind of wait and see how the bills go, but I just, and certainly we appreciate feedback from our members and all the members of the Alliance about what you're doing in your school districts. The other thing to consider too is Senate Bill 100 has only been in practice now for not even a full school year. So there has been a culture shift. There has been a positive culture shift, I think, and people recognizing how detrimental sometimes exclusionary discipline and referrals to law enforcement can be for kids. But I think we need time for that to work and time for those things to kind of work their way through the process that we can kind of illustrate that the culture has changed. Yeah.
Well, and as you and I were talking earlier, I think the supporters of this legislation and those that are advocating strongly for it, where when dealing with suspensions and expulsions, might have been able to find in pockets where that was maybe too much of a default with dealing with kids. Sure. I'm not so sure that it can be done where arrests are concerned. During the time that I was a school principal, that just even when kids were doing things that were not good and probably could have charges brought against them, right. Still try to figure out better pathways than maybe calling in the police. Right. And so only did that a couple of times, during my tenure as a school leader. And I think, we've got to make sure that we don't create these safe havens, right. For this kind of behavior where kids feel, and even students that want to do the right thing, maybe feel just this sense of empowerment that is not positive empowerment, right? There are ways to empower kids, probably in better ways, and there's this analogy or this study that was done once that I just think about here as you were talking. Small children, when they're set out into the playground and there's no fence, they tend to huddle in because they don't know where the guard is, where the boundary is. And but when you set up a fence and a perimeter, then they feel the freedom to go explore the entire perimeter and everything that's available to them, knowing that they have some protection And I think we've got to be very careful that, as we're dealing with young, developing minds, my wife would tell you I'm still probably developing myself, that we've got to make sure to provide those appropriate guardrails for them.
Yeah, it's really about not setting up a double standard for what you should not be doing anyway, but also what the consequences would be on school grounds versus what would happen if you were just on the weekend with your friends and family.
Right. And so at this point in time, can you give us the numbers on those bills again?
Sure. Senate Bill 704 and House Bill 1779.
Okay. And at this point in time, we know that law enforcement is opposed to this legislation as well.
Right.
I'm sure it would encourage school leaders to contact their legislators, tell their stories, make sure. Absolutely. So those of you that have participated in Principal for a Day, this would obviously be a good time to give your legislator a call and have some dialogue about this. So, Dr. Jacoby and Alison, thanks for spending some time here with us on this edition of IPA Talk. There's a whole litany of other things I'm sure we could get into legislatively, but these are two big ones important to our folks right now. So thanks for your time. My name is Jason Leahy, Executive Director for the IPA. If there's anything we can do for you at any time, don't hesitate to give us a call or check us out on the web at www.ilprinciples.org. Take care.